All right, let's hit the speed bag, our newest quick-hitting segment here on MTR, where I supply the subject. Bryant and Dan hit me with some insight. And Brian, you're first up. Mikey Garcia stays unbeaten, not the most thrilling of fights in the win over Juan Carlos Burgos. Did he hurt his chances of landing Pac-Man, though, in the near future?
I think this definitely told everybody, slow your roll a little bit. Look, this was an awful fight, and Garcia, he doesn't necessarily have the personality or the fighting style to be a pound-for-pound or pay-per-view brand this quickly. Look, great fighter, pound-for-pound level guy, but we got to slow down a bit.
Dan, Lamont Peterson bounces back from the Lucas Matisse thrashing, investing De'Aaron John. Where does he fit in the Golden Boy stable between 140 and 147?
Well, Jim, big bounce back win for him. He fits right in with anybody. He called out Danny Garcia, who's the unified real champion in that weight class after the fight. He fits in with Garcia. He fits in maybe a rematch with Matisse. He would possibly go to welterweight for a big fight. But they have a ton of guys in those two weight divisions at 140, 147. Lamont Peterson fits there for two reasons. One, he's really good, and two, he draws a crowd, so they can bring a fight to D.C., where he's from, and sell some tickets.
Dan, Bryant Jennings picked up an impressive win on the Garcia undercard. Is it too early to consider him a threat to Vladimir Klitschko?
I think it's way too early to consider him a threat to Klitschko. I'm not sure he'll ever be a threat to Klitschko. Listen, Bryant Jennings is a good-looking young fighter. He had a good win against Arthur Spilka. It's like going from single-A ball to the big leagues to fight Vladimir Klitschko, and I just don't see that happening. He may get the shot, but it may be just because there's nobody else for him to fight.
This is up for you, Brian, at Tweet Danielson. Here's a good question here, though. What are some of the matchups of 2014 that you might consider Fighter of the Year candidates?
For Fight of the Year potential, look, with apologies to maybe a Rio Salvarado 3 if it gets booked, or any fight involving Ruslan Provodnikov, the fight for me is the light heavyweight showdown that could happen here. Adonis Stevenson against Sergey Kovalev. As Dan reported earlier this week, the fight is in talks. We could see it later in the year. And I'm already throwing punches, Jim.
A slugfest, to be sure. Tweet your questions at ESPN Boxing or B. Campbell ESPN using hashtag ESPN Rounds. We will provide the answers. Friday night fights from West Orange, New Jersey. Light heavyweights Blake Caparello, Elvir Mariki. ESPN2, ESPN Deportes. Watch ESPN. It's at 9 Eastern. That'll do it for Making the Rounds. For Brian Campbell, Dan Rafael, I'm Jim Basquil. We're Making the Rounds every Tuesday right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com.